Hello. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Ira Smith, President of Ira Smith Trustee and Receiver, Inc. First, we hope that you and your family remain safe, healthy, and secure during this COVID-19 pandemic. The Ira Smith team has been and continues to be fully operational. Both myself and Brandon Smith have been holding all meetings either on the telephone conference calls, or video meetings. So if you have any questions at all about this blog below or anything else at all, feel free to shoot us an email, give us a phone call. We would love to speak with you. Today's Brandon's blog is about bankruptcy surplus income. Over the last few months, Brandon has been writing about different aspects of personal insolvency, and he's referred to the concept of surplus income and explained a bit about it based on the context necessary in each of those blogs. But he noticed it's been 3 or 4 years since he's actually written a very detailed blog on bankruptcy surplus income. So Brandon's blog below is all about that, which I'm going to go over the highlights of in this video. So I hope you can watch until the end of the video, because I know you will get value from it. So first, what is bankruptcy surplus income? Surplus income in a bankruptcy context is a bit of a funny terminology. It really is not meant to be how much money you have left over in general terms, because if you had lots of money left over in general terms, you would be paying your debts and not have to file. So what surplus income is in the bankruptcy context is a calculation that the Office of the Superintendent of Bankruptcy Canada requires every trustee to do in every bankruptcy assignment or for a consumer proposal, to calculate that portion of what the creditors could expect in the bankruptcy. The bankruptcy surplus income calculation is set by the Superintendent of Bankruptcy, and an example of that calculation is down below in the blog, and you can review it. But what the Superintendent of Bankruptcy does is it takes Statistics Canada information every year, and it determines what a practical living wage is for a household of various sizes, from a household of 1 up to a household of 8 or 9. And it sets those minimum income levels, saying that's what a household needs to live on. Now, I have to caution you, it's essentially the poverty line, and there's no regional variations put into that assessment. So if you live in one of the most expensive cities in Canada, or if you live in a rural area, the calculation, the income level set by the Superintendent of Bankruptcy is the same. The reasons for surplus income, how it's calculated, is set out in the Superintendent of Bankruptcy's Directive 11R, and there's a link down below to that directive if you wish to read it. And then the trustee does the calculation based on the superintendent's standards. What the calculation is intended to do is to see what amount of income a bankrupt has left over above the standard set by the Superintendent of Bankruptcy. And if the bankrupt's portion of the household surplus income that is left over by $200 or more above the standard is then cut in half, so 50%. That's the monthly amount that the bankrupt has to contribute to the trustee for the bankruptcy estate for the benefit of the creditors. People ask us, what happens to my wages or salary when I am in bankruptcy? Am I allowed to work? Yes, you are allowed to work. The Bankruptcy Act is not meant to be punitive. It's meant to give everyone a fresh start. As a matter of fact, many times people file for bankruptcy because they have debts they cannot afford to repay, and either Canada Revenue Agency has garnished their wages or has frozen their bank account because of outstanding income tax obligations, or a judgment creditor has garnished wages or is trying to execute or has executed on the person's bank account. So the person actually files for bankruptcy because that knocks out all garnishments. So upon bankruptcy, the garnishments stop. The bankrupt now has all that money from their wages or salary, net of income tax, of course, for their benefit. So they now actually have more money in bankruptcy than they did before bankruptcy because there's no more garnishes going on. So what the bankruptcy system in Canada says, now that you're enjoying that extra income, the trustee has to do the calculation to see what you have surplus compared to the superintendent standards, and 50% of that surplus has to be paid over to the trustee for the benefit of the creditors. So when do bankruptcy surplus income payments end? If you're a first-time bankrupt and you have surplus income, then you have to make monthly surplus income payments for 21 months. And at the end of the 21 months, assuming you lived up to all your conditions, including making the surplus income payments, and you haven't given the trustee or a creditor a reason to oppose your discharge, then you're entitled to your discharge after those 21 months. If you do not have surplus income and you're a first-time bankrupt, then you're entitled to a discharge after 9 months, again, subject to an opposition being filed. If you're a second-time bankrupt or more, you cannot get a discharge before 24 months if you do not have surplus income. If you do have surplus income, you have to make monthly surplus income payments for 36 months. And then if you've fulfilled all your duties, including your surplus income payments, then you are entitled to a discharge after 36 months, again, subject to an opposition filed by either the trustee or a creditor. People ask us, can I file for bankruptcy if I make too much money? Well, the test for filing for bankruptcy is not how much money do you make. It is a two-pronged test. The first part of the test is, are you insolvent? Are your assets worth less than your liabilities? If your assets were all sold, would they not bring in enough money to pay your liabilities? Have you stopped paying your bills in general on the date when they come due? That's the first part of the test. The second part of the test is, have you committed an act of bankruptcy within the previous 12 months? That is the test for filing an assignment in bankruptcy or for someone to make an application for a bankruptcy order against you. If you make too much money, what that means is you are going to have very large bankruptcy surplus income payments to make. And as I said previously, if you're a first-time bankrupt, it's going to be for a period of 21 months. The amount of that monthly payment may be too much. It may not fit into your budget. So what the trustee should be doing is talking to you not about filing for bankruptcy, but by filing a consumer proposal or a Division 1 Part 3 proposal, and that's depending on how much debt you have. Brandon has written about those issues and concepts and tests before, and you can certainly look up some of his previous blogs on consumer proposals. The reason you would do that is that you want to make an offer to your creditors to give them an amount that would be better than what they would get in your bankruptcy. But in a consumer proposal, a Division 1 proposal, you can take up to 60 months to make the monthly payments to the trustee that's going to create the proposal fund for your creditors. So let's assume that you don't have any assets that would fall to a trustee in bankruptcy in the event of your bankruptcy. So the only asset as such are the surplus income payments. So you could offer to make a higher total amount of payment to the trustee for the creditors than they would get in your bankruptcy to satisfy the requirement of the Act that your proposal has to be a better alternative than your bankruptcy. But because you can term it out for up to 60 months, rather than having to pay it within 21 months, now the monthly amount you've promised to pay that the creditors have accepted fits neatly within your budget. So that is the answer to what would happen to someone who needs to get a fresh start, who needs to eliminate their debts, but has a very good salary coming in. I hope you've enjoyed this video and that you read the Brandon's blog below, that you take advantage of the free surplus income calculator tool that Brandon has made available for you. Again, the Ira Smith team hopes that you and your family are safe, healthy, and secure. The Ira Smith team is fully operational. If you have any questions at all about this Brandon's blog or anything else, we would love to hear from you. Shoot us an email, give us a phone call. We would love to speak with you.